Hi everyone. Today, I wanted to show you a painting test I'm currently doing on the Bug Army. I'm painting a lot of miniatures for this project, and at some point I realized that if I really want to play with these armies, test the rules, and chain games together, painting has to stay a pleasure, not an obstacle. So in this video, I'm testing a technique I had never used before, applying a wood stain over the entire miniature before using speed paints. The goal here isn't to say this is the best method, but simply to see what it honestly looks like on gaming miniatures. To make the test meaningful, I needed comparable models. So I painted two officers, one with a railgun and another with a heavy plasma pistol, and a soldier from an elite unit that's fairly similar. Same type of helmet, railgun, but different armor. The officers receive a full coat of wood stain before painting. The soldier is painted in a more traditional way, starting from a white undercoat. That way, at the end, we can really compare the results. I start by applying a walnut wood stain over all the test miniatures. It's a product that dries more slowly than regular paint, so you have to accept letting the miniature sit for a while. The goal here is to darken the recesses, break up the white, and create a base that helps the speed paints work better. While those miniatures are drying, I work in parallel on the soldier by adding a layer of wood stain on the armor. Then I follow up with a dark wood layer on the boots, straps, and belt. I then apply dark wood to the officers as well. The scabbard and the guard of the cleaver are also painted with this color. Very quickly, one thing becomes obvious: the paint flows much more easily over a wood stained surface. Transitions happen more naturally, contrasts almost create themselves, and most importantly, you don't have to be nearly as careful around the borders between colors, which was honestly the most annoying part of speed paints for me. I'm not sure how this would behave with regular acrylic paints, but I suspect it wouldn't work as well, because the paint would flow too much, and you'd probably see brush strokes. Once that's done, I glue the miniatures to their bases. After that, I move on to Nuclear Sunrise, an orange tone that I use for the sweater. I've reserved this color mostly for elite troops, so it fits well for officers. Once all the miniatures have this color, I paint the back of the armor, the leather parts of the soldier's armor, using a mix of warrior skin and dark wood to create a leather effect. I think Army Painter probably has the perfect color for this, but I own very few speed paints, so I often have to mix them to get the effect I want. Next come the pants, painted with slaughter red. This is where it becomes much more difficult on the miniature that didn't receive the wood stain, because you really have to be careful not to go outside the lines. The paint doesn't flow as well. Painting over the wood stain is simply much more comfortable, both for contrast and overall control. Then I go straight to the skin, applying Crusader skin. If the face were visible, I think I would have dry brushed white over the skin first before applying Crusader skin, because the paint flows so much and the wood stain already has a yellow-brown tone that slightly alters the skin color. But since only the hands are visible here, it's not really an issue. Next, I apply bright red to the part of the helmet that's supposed to be made of Fukai wood. I could have used slaughter red, but I didn't want the exact same color as the pants. I wanted something that stayed in warm tones but wasn't identical. Then I apply Gravelord Grey directly to the bandages on the officers that received the wood stain. This is where things get a bit annoying, because on the miniature without wood stain, you first need to apply a layer of light tone before adding Gravelord Grey. For metals, I use a mix of Gravelord Grey and Broadsword Silver, applied to weapons, helmets, and equipment like canteens and magazines. On the wood stain miniatures, the result is immediately deeper, dirtier, and more coherent with the Bug Army's aesthetic. I then add jungle sprite to the targeting lenses and to the heavy plasma pistol as well. A small touch of green is really necessary to balance the red and orange. At this point, the miniatures are almost finished. I just apply another layer of wood stain on the armor to really push the contrast. It gives the armor a much older, more characterful look, which I really like. In the end, once both miniatures are finished, the difference isn't shocking. They can absolutely be played together without any issue. But when you look closer, the miniature painted over wood stain has stronger contrasts, deeper shadows, and gives a more finished impression with less effort. It's not magic, but for fast, tabletop-oriented painting, the result is clearly better and faster. This test really convinced me. I think this is a technique I'll keep using for the bug army. I still need to test how it behaves with traditional paints, but for speed painting aimed at gameplay, the comfort and readability gains are very real. This is exactly the kind of approach I'm looking for on this project. Miniatures designed to be printed, painted, and played without unnecessary friction. In a few days, I'll publish a full tutorial using this technique on a special miniature, the Bug Army Banner Bearer, which will also be the free miniature tied to the project. If you're interested, you'll find all the links in the description. Thanks for watching, and see you very soon for what's next.